So I want to talk about hair loss, partly because it's the second biggest looks killer for men, the number one being excess body fat. It's crazy how much people descend just from going bald. Even small recessions are enough to really disrupt your harmony. And I want to talk about it partly because there's so much misinformation on it. So for example, you have the carnivore people who think that diet fixes everything, and if you lose hair, you just need to eat more fat or whatever. And yeah, it's just misinformation, of course. And on top of that, people are scared of treating hair loss because there's so much propaganda and misinformation when it comes to the solutions. People think that solutions for hair loss will give you even more problems than it'll fix. And so this is a topic that you can't really talk too much about because there's so much misinformation out there. There's a lot of mechanisms at play, but they're all downstream from the androgenic problem. Let's just get one thing clear first, which is only around 3% of men, compared to placebo, get sexual side effects on 5-AR inhibitors. And so this whole idea of you have to trade your sexual function for more hair on top of your head, which is basically the consensus view, because anti-science is basically mainstream now. And this is just BS. It's not what the studies say at all. The vast majority of people don't get side effects, including sexual side effects. And most people, they can stop hair loss with just finasteride alone. And after you're an adult, so when you're 18 or more, there's really low use for DHT. DHT can make your beard thicker and grow your beard faster, but it's a matter of will you get a full beard at 30 or 32, something like that. It's not really a huge problem, and it's way more important to keep your hair than to have a thicker beard. And so I want to talk a little bit mechanistically the process of hair loss. So why does the hair fall off? There's a lot of pathways that go into that final stage. So the hair falls off because in the end there's too much fibrosis, calcification, progenitor cell failure, niche failure, lack of blood flow, lack of nutrients to the hair follicle. But all these things, all these cascade of events are downstream from DHT and sensitivity to DHT in the hair follicles. And people often mistake the indirect effects of DHT on the hair follicles as if it's the actual cause of hair loss, but it's often just a symptom. Yes, people that have more hair loss, they have less blood flow, they have more inflammation, but these are byproducts of the DHT sensitivity. They're not the precursors to hair loss. DHT itself, after it's converted via 5-alpha reductase from testosterone, it miniaturizes the hair follicles after DHT binds to the androgen receptors at the base of the hair follicles. And as the hair gets thinner, it needs less blood. Therefore, it needs less and less blood flow. And then people mistake the blood flow problem with hair loss. That's just a symptom, not the cause. DHT also causes microinflammation around the hair follicles, but that's an indirect outcome of DHT sensitivity. DHT is not generally pro or anti-inflammatory, it's context dependent. In the endothelial cells, so in the arteries, it's usually anti-inflammatory, but in the scalp and skin, it's usually pro-inflammatory. So it's context dependent. And in the context of hair follicles, DHT is pro-inflammatory, not via direct means, but via indirect ones. And so some people, they see a study, they see that people with androgenic alopecia, they have higher levels of inflammation. And then they think, oh, it's inflammation causing the hair loss, and so I can fix it with diet. But that's just not true. That's a byproduct, not the cause. And the reason you should take this seriously is because people often just try to solve hair loss way too late. Number one, there's no reason to, because barely anyone gets side effects. And if you do, you can just take topical versions. But number two, if you wait long enough, you're going to have too much fibrosis, too much calcification, too much progenitor cell failure, too much niche failure, too much inflammation. All these things will lead to lack of blood flow, lack of melanin in the hair follicles. Eventually, hair loss is irreversible. But if you only have miniaturization, it's still possible to reverse hair loss. So eventually, the hair follicles, they get so thin, and as they get thinner, the skin around the hair follicles gets more fibrosis and more calcification, and then the tissues harden, and eventually the hair follicles fall. And at that point, it's irreversible, and you would need a hair transplant. And even if the hair hasn't fallen off yet, just the fact that you have fibrosis and calcification will neutralize some of the effects of finasteride and minoxidil and dutasteride. And so people should feel urgency. They should try to fix hair loss as soon as possible. And the vast majority of men experience hair loss. So there's between 85 to 100% chance that you'll get hair loss. Perhaps you're the exception. Perhaps you're one of the lucky ones, like Ronald Reagan, who had Norwood 1 his entire life. But that's the exception, not the rule. And for the vast majority of men, they will experience hair loss. And most people, they're scared of 5-HAIR inhibitors. And it's not based on logic or studies. It's just based on human intuition and emotions. And if there's something that history taught us is human intuition sucks. Human intuition is what led us to believing in thousands of gods, believing in infinite religions, believing the earth is flat. But we shouldn't rely on intuition. We should rely on empirical data. And this case is no exception.